All right, we are joined tonight with my very special guest, Ava Chen of NFSC Speaks. And I'm so grateful for you to join us today. It's incredible. For those who have never heard of NFSC Speaks, you're an incredible news organization that is working to expose the evils of the CCP. And Ava, I'm glad that you're here tonight because this week has been a tough one for your organization. Miles Guo was arrested on March 15th, and we're going to get into the details of his arrest, including what mainstream media is saying, but also we want to hear your analysis. For those who aren't familiar with Miles, I'd love for you to share a little bit about him, Ava, in just a moment. Miles came to the United States defecting from the CCP in 2014, and ever since the CCP has been attempting to get him to come back to China. Is that correct?
Just be precise. I want to first of all just to clarify one thing. The NFSC stands for the New Federal State of China, and we're actually much more than a news organization. This is actually a social movement, the largest social movement, which the sole mission is to taking down the CCP. And the second point that I want to clarify is deflector. We don't call Miles Guo a deflector because he was never a Chinese Communist Party member. He was never. He's a private citizen and was very successful business person. So he fled China because at that time, the CCP, the kleptocrats, was persecuting him and his family. So he got a chance. At the end of the 2014, he fled China. And so I just want to start clarify that 2 points. But I'm very, very grateful for this opportunity because, as you mentioned, the mainstream media are full of misinformation and disinformation and purposefully misleading people. And those information has been unfortunately planned and amplified by the CCP and their collaborators. So that's why I really gratefully appreciate this opportunity to spread the truth. Thank you.
Yes, and Ava, thank you so much for really making sure that that was clear of Miles's involvement, because to be honest, you're right. There are many articles that paint him as being a former CCP member himself. So that's a great thing. Thank you very much for making that clear. Now, he was arrested, and these are the charges that he has defrauded, these were allegations of fraud of millions and millions of dollars. Ava, what can you tell us about that? And certainly for those who are only hearing the mainstream media's point of view on this.
Absolutely. I think what happened on March 15th is we all witnessed the darkest day in democracy, in this fight, good versus evil. But back to your question, I think in terms of what happened, so this is purely, and the millions, or claim the $1 billion fraud scam that committed by Miles Guo is completely false allegation. There's no single allegations in that indictment is true. I can tell you guys, because the number that quoted was completely off, and the second, the nature of the crime was completely fabricated. So so basically the fight, first of all, I wanted just to confirm for your audiences who is Miles Guo. So Miles Guo is the #1 enemy of the Chinese Communist Party, and this is by his choice. Okay, so he has been actually fighting for this totalitarian regime things very early on, 1989. There was a Tiananmen Square student movement and turning to be a student massacre on June 4th, 1989. In that movement, Miles Guo was already very successful. He started very young age, very entrepreneurial, getting into a lot of business, a small business of his own and his brothers. And then he sold. At that time, he sold his bike and donated for 3,600 Chinese yuan. That's about, at that time, about maybe $500 US. That was a lot of money back in 1989. So he donated to the student movement. And because of that, he was arrested and put in a detention center for 22 months, where he was severely beaten and persecuted. And he witnessed more than 60 the prisoner of conscience being executed in front of him. And so that's where, upon the release of his incarceration and detention back in 1991, after 22 months, that's where he started, decided to take on to the totalitarian regime. But he knew at that time, in order to be successful, he needs to be influential and he needs to be wealthy. So that's why he prepared himself within the system, deliberately making the friends he needs to. And until 2014, he fled US. He landed in United States in early 2015, and he started 2017 the online revelation of exposing the crimes and the evil nature of the Chinese Communist Party. And between the 2 years he was here, from 2015 to 2017, he received numerous threats from the CCP's kleptocrats and warning him about not disclosing information online. And also, in 2015, after he fled China, his family, his business associates, and his business has been raided by the Chinese secret police multiple times. And there are 270 of the family member and business associates was arrested. Okay, so that was happening in early 2015, but he didn't cave in. Okay, so he prepared, and on January 26, 2017, he started the very first public interview in United States. Okay, he was interviewed by a media, Chinese-speaking media on YouTube, and that's where he started his online whistleblowing. And today, after 6 years, we consider there's hundreds, millions, 500 million followers right now. Majority of them are living still in mainland China, but many of us are actually spread across the globe, in the world. We have, that's where I am in New York headquarters. And along with my sisters and brothers, we're all the freedom fighter in this great social movement. And our goal is to free Chinese people, our fellow countrymen, and to take down the CCP. So that's who is Miles Guo.
Well, you are certainly, you and the other journalists and everybody, and part of this movement with NFSC is you guys are just incredible. And I have the utmost respect for each one of you. And I want to say it was just an honor to meet so many of your colleagues in Arizona in December at America Fest.
Yes.
And the energy that was coming from the little booth at NFSC Speaks was incredible. And in fact, it was contagious. The entire room where we were at, this huge convention hall, could hear the chants of taking down the CCP from that booth. And it inspired so many Americans to really get emotionally involved in your cause and understand, because we don't have a concept of what Chinese people have been facing under the evil CCP regime.
Absolutely.
And Miles is no stranger to this. So I want to talk a little bit about this. He was arrested, then he was brought to his arraignment, and an interesting thing happened before we get to the arraignment. I want you to kind of paint us a picture here. While 6 hours after he was arrested, FBI agents were still in his penthouse on the 18th floor of his building, of the hotel where he was living. And a fire broke out, which destroyed most of his penthouse. Now, help us connect the dots here, because if FBI agents are still in there, did they set the fire? Where did this fire come from? How did it start? We're not sure yet, correct?
Absolutely. Right now, we don't have any particular information, but from the sources on the scene that day on March 15th, around the apartment, and also from the later on the arraignment hearing at the court at the Southern District of New York, the court, we know for sure Miles. So FBI, over 100 FBI. I'm not sure how many incidents happen in the United States. Is over 100? It seems way overborne, and they basically arraigned the residence of Miles in New York in around about 6 a.m. that day. Okay, and then they immediately, upon entering the apartment, at that time there was two people in the apartment, in the residence. One is Miles Guo, one is his assistant. So they immediately handcuffed the assistant and interrogated him, trying to locate where is Miles Guo, because that residence, the 18th floor, it's quite a huge place. It's actually have multiple bedrooms and, I think over 10 dozens of restrooms. So they wanted to locate where Miles is. So after probably 20 minutes, around I think 6:30, they located and they handcuffed Miles right away. At that time, the room was filled with FBI agents. And then they start search and interrogate both of them separately, according to the information we received. And then about 7:30-ish, around 7:30, they basically took Miles to the court for interrogation. And then they forced the assistant to leave the apartment around 8 o'clock in the morning of March 15th. Okay, so basically the fire, absolutely, because we, according to the local news report, I think it was ABC 7 local channel on New York, they reported the fire broke in about 12 o'clock, so around noontime. And the agents, the FBI agents who entered the apartment actually made the phone call. Okay, so we don't know at that time exactly.
They're the ones that called for the fire department to show up.
That's right. They are the party, okay, who are federal FBI agents. I don't know how many of them, but they phoned the fire department, okay, and then the fire department dispatched everything and then put out the fire. According to what the news report, the fire actually put out about 2 hours. Over 1.5 and 2 hours, they put out the fire, and it causing severe damage to the apartment. So, you know, we don't know exactly what happened. We're still waiting for the fire marshal, you know, to do the thorough investigation and to inform the public. But we do have the inks why this happened, because this is not first time. I want to take everybody back to 2017. Okay, so 2017, remember, April, I just said, Miles School started whistleblowing in January. Guess what? That year was really, really, really dangerous year for Miles School, because from immediately after January, March, Miles School's family business associates, they got arrested again. Okay, so they were second time, especially his daughter arrested second time, and along with hundreds of other peoples. And then not only arresting in 2017 March, they also put 3,000 people under surveillance. That's in China, done by the Chinese Communist Party. The 3,000 people could be
Were these 3,000 close to Miles? Is that why?
Yeah, they are just workers in the hotel that Miles owned. Not Miles' family's own. Okay, so they're actually 7-star hotels right by the Olympic Games. If you recall the 2008 Olympic Games with the bird's nest, and so Miles has the landmark hotel that in Beijing that just crossed the bird nest. So they basically surveillance 3,000 people. Okay, so that means they're limiting their mobilities, and that's the extent they went in March. The reason why is because in March, Miles School announced the very first time that he was going to accept a live interview with Voice of America. Okay, that's a public television Chinese-speaking channel of Voice of America. In April, actually the exactly day is on April 19th. So he made an announcement on his social media. So that's why the immediate threat coming from the CCP say, you dare to do that interview. Okay, so this is how they threaten you. They arrest all the family members and seized about $17 billion US assets of Guo and Guo families, assets.
Right.
And then, but Miles Guo did not bend. Okay, so he continued despite the pressure and the sacrifice that he had. He and his, relatives, his families, and his even colleagues has to suffer. He pushed through. So, but hours before the 4/19 live interview happened on VOA, two things happened. Okay, one thing is the Chinese foreign minister announced Interpol had just issued a red notice for Guo and calling him a criminal suspect. Okay, and the second thing that's happened is exactly happening in the same courthouse, which is a New York Supreme Court. The PAX, which is a subsidiary of PAG, Pacific Alliance Group, a Hong Kong-based, a Cayman Island-registered private equity fund headed by Chinese spy named Shan Weijian, filed a complaint in the Supreme Court of New York on April 14th, New York time at 4 p.m. Okay, so that's literally just a day before the 4/19. So these two things happened. And guess what? On the 2/19s, it was supposed to be a 3-hour interview, but the interview with Miles on live camera, about an hour, just an hour in, and then they unplugged the plug. So the live interview was stopped, okay, at a 1-hour mark, just before he was about to expose the crime of then the vice president of China, Wang Qishan. Okay, so that's happened. But that year, again, in October, I wanted to, because that year it's so important for you to understand why the CCP so relentlessly pursue him to the state. And so September, Miles applied for political asylum in 2017 in the United States, and he hired a law firm. And this law firm is a prominent Washington, D.C. law firm called Clark Hill. Okay. And before Miles School hired Clark Hill as his representative to submit his asylum application, he warned the law firm because he said, I was the most wanted man by the CCP. You need to making sure you beef up your security, your cyber, your everything, because if you take on my case, you're likely to be, harassed by the CCP. And Clark Hill knowingly agreed to represent him. Guess what happened? September 12th, only 6 days after he filed his asylum application, the entire computer system of this law firm was hacked. Okay, so the entire system, there is about close to 600 computers. Okay, so, and of course, they leaked out his asylum application information and his family information, him and his wife, on the internet. Okay, right after. But worse, okay, this is actually a war of cyber terrorism, because before they actually hacked them, they actually phoned the law firm and threatening the law firm to drop representing Miles School. Okay, and then it didn't work. So they actually launched the cyber attack, which this time they definitely brought this law firm to its knees. And this law firm, you know what? Because their location, they're a stone throw with the, to the White House. They're so close, and because they're prominent, they have a lot of partners or clients or Washington D.C. sensitive, influential politicians. Guess what? This hacker, CCP, is not only happy with Miles School's information. Now they actually access to vast information about those influential partners and clients. Okay, so that's happening in September, but October 4th, Miles School was scheduled way ahead of time at Hudson Institute to deliver a speech at 11 a.m. at Hudson Institute. That was scheduled, previously. However, on October 3rd, around noontime, he got a notification from Hudson Institute and saying they have to postpone. That's literally the words they use on the website even today. If you go search Google, you can see postponing, which is 6 years already. They postponing from October 1st, 2017. There's no indefinitely. So that happened later on. You can search on the media, Google it. The reason why they cancel it is because they were the same thing. The Chinese Communist Party, the government has targeted Hudson Institute and attacking their website. So they have been hacked. And also there are their staff at the Institute received multiple calls from the embassy and pressured them to drop this conversation. But the thing is, what Miles was initially planned to disclose was a top secret plan, which could have saved millions of Americans' life, okay? Because that plan later on, because the events was canceled, what he did is he held a press conference the next day, October 5th, at the National Press Club on Washington, D.C. And in that numerous hours of, I think maybe 2 hours of a press conference, he reviewed the plan he was about to review the day before, which is called 3.17.23 plan. I'm not sure whether you heard of that plan.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so 1 stands for creating a bioweapon. Okay, 3 stands for released within 3 years. And 5 stands for making it a fact, making this virus about to release a fact for 5 years. And 7 stands for destroying the 5 Eye country plus the Japan and India. Okay,
so
and
he
then
was
9.
warning everybody.
That's right. And 9 is create a vaccine within 9 months to blackmail the entire world. Okay, so that was a 13.17.23 plan. And guess what? Here is the kick. He shared this documents prior to October. He gave that to FBI. Okay, here we go. Now we come back to a circle. He gave that to FBI, and FBI authenticated the only copy of the original one he obtained. He risked his life, and many whistleblowers has risked their life to obtain the original documents of the 13579 in 2017, telling the world what the CCP is about to do. And FBI authenticated and saying, yeah, this is real, but they sit on it and they didn't do anything. Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, none of this surprises me, although I think that it's absolutely egregious, but all of this points back to that the CCP seemingly owns our FBI, owns America, so to speak. If they're able to get their way in our country, and something like this where a huge worldwide threat is given to them to say, hey, listen, this is what's going to happen, and they do nothing. What else are Americans to think but that they really aren't working for the people? They're weaponized against the people.
Absolutely. This is what we have been trying to tell the world is American is in danger because, it's not a threat anymore. This is imminent. This is present right now at this moment. And what happened yesterday, the day before yesterday, March 15th, is the best proof of the DOJ, of your FBI, of your SEC system has been completely controlled, by the CCP, remotely actually. So through those American traders that they've cultivated over the past decades in your system. Okay, so this is a reality. So it comes to FBI. I haven't finished the FBI because in the court document that released, and this is now the public documents. If you're interested in following these criminal charges that brought by the U.S. attorney, his name is Damian Williams at the Southern District of New York. I highly recommend to go to the court documents. You read it yourself. It mentioned in 2019, FBI searched Miles Guo's residence, and they actually confiscated 94 cell phones and a bunch of documents. Okay, and there's nothing come out of it because you know what? I bet there's a lot of incriminating evidence about pointing to the collusion between the system and the CCP, because all those whistleblowers that follow our social movement who want nothing but to take down the CCP has risked everything, literally, providing those highly classified intel to us, to help us, to help Americans, to save lives, to protect your properties, to take down the evil regime, to root out those influence that controls your judicial and your government system. We're trying so hard for telling people for the last 6 years, but we've been canceled by the mainstream media. We've been canceled by big tech. That is why, coming back to the indictment, the charges on SEC is saying that, the GTV, have you read the charges published on the SEC or, all those media reports?
I did not read the charges yet.
Okay, so what's this about really is about a GTV because we've been censored. And Miles has long been telling us media is more powerful than the nuclear bomb in an unrestricted warfare, waged by the CCP against the free world. So we call it unrestricted warfare. That means it doesn't smell like kinetic war. It doesn't look like a kinetic war, but it is a war, and you are just, not noticing it. Okay, so that's why we know everywhere we go, we've been censored. Regardless, Twitter, everywhere we look, we cannot get the point across. That is why Miles Guo decided to, along with his circle of friends that he provide advice to, establish the GTV, which is alternative media, the media that wanted to bring truth back to China. Okay, so there's a lot of Chinese speaking content on GTV. So GTV was launched in 2020 April, and then we started, as a whistleblower, follower, freedom fighters, and also as the supporter of the new federal state of China. We are the investors. I am an investor. of the GTV. I don't invest for money. I invest for taking down the CCP. I invest for my rights to speak as a human being in a free country. That's why we invested. But you know what?
Yes.
We're the victim of the weaponization of the SEC by the CCP, not by GTV, not by GTV's investor. Okay, not by the allegation that claimed by GTV and by the DOJ. Claimed by SEC and DOJ. So I invest my money, and in 2020, I think in September, they started a investigation on GTV. SEC started an investigation on GTV based on falsified claim allegations from people who pretending to be investors. Okay, we're a social movement. It's not a organization or anything.
So
we're just volunteers. A lot of people.
You say, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. When you say though, people were pretending to be investors, were they really spies?
You know what? Yes, these are people pretending to be one of us. They pretending, oh, I support you. I support your cause. But some of them are CCP spies, registered spy. Some of them are converted into an operatives because CCP is in a war. They're constantly attacking us and targeting us. Okay, so if you don't have a strong conviction, if you don't believe what you are doing, you will be changed. You will be converted to operatives. So they keep doing this to us. So unfortunately, there are people that the CCP spies, they pretending to be us. But what's the most preposterous and most horrifying thing is the SEC, when they accept those false claims, they didn't even do due diligence to investigate their claims. So we came to aware of 11 of those fake investors who complained to SEC about GTV, harmed their interest, or made misstatement, misrepresentation about the opportunity, blah blah blah. They never invested even a cent. The documents they provided are all fake, but SEC did not do their job. And this is not the first time. I mean, we can go back to, Bernie Madoff. They didn't even protecting any investors. They didn't even protecting the real investor because among the 5,500 real investors, 99% are people like me. That is why we're doing live streams nonstop from the morning at 10 a.m. on March 15th. We're still doing it right now around the globe. 25 chapters of this, we call farm. They're volunteers. We have hundreds, thousands of people are right now on our, at Mile School handle or live streaming. We're supporting. We will not stop our live stream until Mile School is back.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, right now he goes to court on April 4th. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So on that day, hopefully he might receive bail, and right now he's being held, or what's happening?
This is a point. Yeah, this is a point I want to make. This is really, really egregious, makes people angry. And I think every American should be terrified. Okay, every American. The reason why is that the persecutor, the government, argued against the bail of Mile School. Okay, and just think about it. Just think about this. Have you the recent the bail 250 million bail for the FTX?
Yes. Yes.
So this guy, Sam Bankman-Fried, right? He was charged fraud very recently, and under the same district, Southern District, actually under the same U.S. attorney, and the involvement is 1.8 billion. Okay, fraud alleged. Okay, and then they actually allowed him on bail and be under house arrest. Okay, but in Mile School's case, they made a deliberately argument, and I suggest you to go on the public docket, go to Pacer, download how they argued that Mile School should be detained. He should not qualify.
He's not a violent criminal.
Exactly.
Right.
But that's the part that I want to say. Mile School has done, and the new federal state and Mile School has done nothing but to save lives from the very early on. If you recall when the virus hits. Trump, COVID came. 2020, Trump made a travel ban, announced travel ban on January 31st, I think. Starting in February 2nd, they're going to banning the international travel from China. And that is because Mile School's intel, okay? And Peter Navarro wrote a book about it in Trump time. On page 23, he mentioned that. And way ahead of that, in 2019, June, Mile School, in one of his live streaming, he has warning the Hong Kong protester in 2019 June. He said the CCP most likely to release a quasi-chemical weapon, biochemical weapon, okay, to cracking down on the pro-democracy protest in Hong Kong. You need to be careful. That was in 2019 June. And then in 2019 December, when the world it has no clue, when the Chinese Communist Party are busy censoring the Chinese people to talk about this so-called, virus outbreak. They're basically completely censoring. We have doctors arrested. We have doctors Lee died because he trying to inform his colleagues about this suspicious outbreak. Those fever-ish symptom. And Miles Guo has already in one of his live streams saying that this is human-to-human transmission, and we need to be really careful about this virus. And in very early January, in multiple live streaming, he's actually mentioning about the virus is gonna kill a lot of people. Okay, it will be a huge death toll. And then in March, April or March, I can't remember, maybe April, March in 2020, he's already saying that the vaccine is going to be, don't trust the vaccine because the vaccine is a toxicant, because we don't even know. If you don't know where the virus come from, how could you trust a vaccine? How could you trust the vaccine? Because at February 26th, the CCP, the military general, Major Chen Wei, a lady wearing a military form on CCTV, has already announced that they have the vaccine already in production. At that time, they actually starting the trial 1, trial 2 phases of experimentation. And then there's article about it. I think it was written in Lancet and published by the Chinese Communist Party Academy of Military Research or something. I can't, but something about Military Research Center. They published it. And Chen Wei was one of the authors in that article. The article published July or August in 2020 about the vaccine that they produced. They're starting producing in February. So this is why Miles Guo is the most hated person. And we're the most censored party because we have been very early on telling people, do not trust the vaccine. And the COVID is a bioweapon. It's meant to destroy your life, your economy. In 2017, October, as I mentioned, the press release that he held in the National Press Club, one of the plan, aside from the 13579 plan, Miles Guo reviewed 2 other plans. And this 2 plan, one plan is called a 3Fs plan, which stands for foment weakness, foment chaos, and by virtue of doing these 2, foment destruction of the United States. And that's the top goal of the Chinese Communist Party. Okay.
Right. And I mean, if America falls, where is anyone going to go for free? Where do you go when America has fallen? I mean, Miles Guo isn't even safe here in the United States. Used to be a place where people could come and be safe, and now there's no guarantee of that. So what a lot of people, I think, are still trying to wrap their minds around is some information that was recently released by a former pharma executive named Sasha Latipova. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her.
No.
But she did a lot of research and discovered that our Department of Defense colluded or aligned with Fosun Pharmaceuticals.
Yes.
And Pfizer and BioNTech to put together this entire vaccine rollout program. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been speaking about it quite a bit. About the background of that is that it was really a military. It was a military thing, but it was under the guise of a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah. So in previous, if I really wish the people could have heard, heard our whistleblowing, especially from Miles Guo. In previous years, like in the last 6 years, he has been telling the people, look at the Wuhan Virology Institute. The top part is for the so-called scientists, but they're not just the scientists, they're military scientists. But the bottom part of that Wuhan Virology of Institute is strict. Nobody can enter, not even those military scientists. These are strict military people. Okay, for I think it was 303 Research Center, strictly military. Miles Guo was there personally. He visited that place, so he know exactly what he's talking about. And what you just mentioned was not a news to us. We knew it many years ago. We actually, I think it was 2 years ago, we tell the world that Pfizer is actually controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, if you go search on Bloomberg, there is something called Pfizer Investment LLC or something. It was an investment company, especially in China, established in China in 2014, if I'm not wrong. But in 2009, take the time back a little bit. In 2009, Pfizer announced, even today, you can just Google it, announced 3 biomedical research center in China. One of them is Wuhan City. That was back in 2009. And then in 2014, guess what? P4 Lab, the Chinese Wuhan P4 Lab is, they agreed to build. Who is building the P4 Lab for China? Because the Chinese government does not have the technology. Because P4 Lab is the highest safe rating, lab in the world, right? You have to meet a very stringent standard, and you would have the technology and know how to build it. And at that time, the CCP doesn't know how. But guess what? The CEO of Moderna, okay, the CEO of Moderna was the CEO of the company that built the P4 Lab for the Chinese government. You figure, okay? And then let's wind back to 2020. What you just said, Folsom. Folsom is a CCP controlled in a private enterprise. So just for your audiences, I want to make a quick reference. When you hear state-owned company and private-owned company, they're all CCP controlled.
Right.
There's no real private or free, so-called free market. There's no free market because everything is controlled. Okay, they just give you an illusion that they are free. They're not. The Folsom CEO called Guo Guangchang, he is a white gloves, which we say he is a front man of the CCP kleptocrat. He's just holding the assets and doing the dirty works for the CCP. And we have a lot of those people. Jack Ma, all those people, well-known entrepreneur and very successful businessmen, on the Hurram's list, on the Forbes list as the most rich and influential people. They are the CCP's front men. Okay, so Folsom entered the agreement with a BioNTech in March 2020. Okay, they're going to provide the factory and they're going to produce the vaccine. Okay, and then BioNTech is provide the technology and the know-how. Okay, so basically, how many vaccine was actually produced in China? Probably, if not all, probably bulk of it. Okay,
yeah.
So whether it's a Pfizer, whether it's Moderna, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all coming from the same place. And we have been trying to tell the world, for 6 years, not exactly from 2017, but from 2017 and 2020, we have been using GTV. Remember, GTV started 2020 at April. That's where the CCP has really, really infuriated because they witnessed the exponential user growth on the GTV. And Chinese people start waking up because Miles Guo's sacrifice and persistent in whistleblowing online. Okay, they heard us. They use a VPN, get through the firewall, and then they heard us. And a lot of people starting, believing it and following us. That's why, when the GTV is launched, and we were just sending all those information out, but we still censor by big tech. It's unbelievable. But because the SEC, the false complaint, the SEC started investigation. We call them witch hunt. So they started in actually 2020 September, and then in 2021, I think early 2021, they ordered a cease and desist letter to GTV, and that's where they threatening GTV. But GTV and SEC entered agreement at that time. So the SEC said, okay, I'm gonna establish. They called a fair fund. It's about 462 million, if I remember the number correct. It's about $462 million. So they say, I'm going to return those money to the harmed investor, which I'm not one of those harmed investors. Those harmed investors are fake CCP agents. Okay?
Oh, so they gave your money to CCP agents, and then you still haven't gotten paid?
No, they didn't give the money to the CCP agents. They just took whatever the false claim made by the CCP agents, and then they seized the fund from the other 99%, the real investors who are the followers of this movement.
It's incredibly
and they seized the money. Yes, and they said on the statement, if you go just go on website, on the SEC website, they said we're going to establish a fair fund, and we will distribute those funds back to those 5,500 investors. That was a year and a half ago, more than a year and a half ago. And today I still not receiving my money. And guess what? There's only 1/10 of the money returned. There's the rest, millions of money still freezed and on hold, by the SEC. So who is the victim here? So we are the victim of the SEC and the CCP.
And why is the CCP controlling the SEC? It's absolutely, I mean, really, this is proving the point. The CCP will stop at nothing to destroy Miles Guo, but anybody that stands in the way of how they want to control every aspect of people's lives, even when you're in America, they're still going to try to control you. Yeah. I mean, why I understand why Guo was a threat to the CCP. He was going to alert and trying to alert, President Trump and many others about the threats of China. But from all of this information, and it comes out daily, we watched what happened with the Hunter Biden laptop. Mm-hmm. We've watched all of the information come out about how it's proven that the Biden family has received money from China. With, weeks after him leaving office, he gets deposits in his bank account from CCP. That was an article I just read today. Yes. And yet nothing happens to them. So has America already been captured, Ava?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So right now, your executive branch is compromised. Your judicial branch, by this case, by the instance happened on March 15th. Even prior to that, we already know, because we have been, when we went to the MFest last year, December, and also CPAC, March, just, weeks ago. And this is a message we have been spreading, is your system right now is infiltrated and penetrated severely by the Chinese Communist Party. Okay. And you need to act. The only thing that is holding is your Congress, because Congress has too many people. The Chinese Communist Party could not overtake so many people, so that is why you see the Select Committee on China, you see the weaponization, the subcommittee on weaponization of the federal government, right? You see all those things are happening right now. That's the hope. That's the hope we want to, making sure those representatives who are sitting in Capitol Hill are really representative people, because they can come up to Miles, they can come up to everybody. So no one is safe. But back to the FBI, the scary part is, because we all know, FBI have a lot of information, incriminating information for a long time, but they don't act on that. For example, the Hunter Biden's laptop. But when I mentioned in 2019, they've confiscated a lot of, classified 94 phones. And I would imagine, among the things that they confiscated, they searched, they took away, has a lot of damaging intels that the whistleblowers have shared with Miles, or Miles has obtained. Okay, so, and nothing happened. Just like the 2017, the 13579 plan, the same thing. And the fire broken out and noon, you can smell the fishiness of FBI from miles away. Okay, so my question here, because this happened twice, 2017 and then 2019, very logically, I was thinking, did FBI find something really damaging? Okay, really damaging to them. Okay, whoever on the top, that they need to destroy it. So
right. I mean, that's a great question, because why did they need to destroy his penthouse, right? If they, it's just it doesn't make sense. There's FBI agents in the penthouse when the fire breaks out, and they let them know that there's a fire there. So
absolutely.
On one hand, why wouldn't they just take what what was incriminating? Why wouldn't they just take it? Why did they have to destroy it?
Yes. And the other way, I wanted to let your audiences know, because we really wanted to educate the audiences so that you can be a citizen journalist. You can go dig information. You can write to your congressman. You can talk to those people that you elected to the House. So making sure that they work for you. And so one of the ways they're penetrating the judiciary is through the international law firms. So it's not surprising for me to find that Damian Williams, the U.S. attorney, has before he became the U.S. attorney for the South District of New York. First of all, he was appointed by Joe Biden. Okay. Second of all, he was working for a international law firm, a U.S. law firm called Paul West. I'm not sure whether I say it correct or not, but WEISS. So this Paul West firm are very, very, very have a very special relationship with China, because if you go search, China if officially opens its legal market to welcoming foreign law firms officially in 1992. Okay, so that year, there are 12 international law firms registered and opened their representative office in China with two conditions. So the international law firms had to accept these two conditions unconditionally. Otherwise, it cannot open an office in China. One condition is they have to comply with the order of the leader of the CCP and their intel apparatchiks. Okay, this is number one. Unconditionally complying. Second, they have to agree to take on Chinese lawyers as a partner in the law firm, in their representative office. And guess what? All those Chinese lawyers are selected, designated Chinese spies by the Chinese Communist Party. But thinking about it, so that means this law firm, their clients, their partners, their information, okay, ultimately is at CCP's disposal.
Sure.
Okay? You have what does the law firm do? They come across on the desk a lot of sensitive information from your government, your business secrets, your government information, sensitive information, your research data, your technology transfer, all those things literally has access. CCP has a hand on them. And the Paul West is very special because they entered into China even before 1992. Because before 1992, the Chinese top government, like the top leaders, the kleptocrats, they grant something called a trade special consultancy license. Okay. And Paul West is one of those special consultancy company that provided legal services even before Chinese Communist Party officially opens its legal market, although with strings attached. So just think about what they can do, and that's basically compromising your international law firms, and those law firms are making billions in China even now, even today. If you look at Bloomberg, if you look at Wall Street Journal, who is saying the praise of the Chinese Communist Party? It's those law firms and accounting firms. And why would they? Yeah, they're in bed with them. $1 billion, why would they bite the hands that feeding them $1 billion? They're all in this together. Okay? And they're coming after us, we the people.
I remember when I blew the whistle on CBS and in 2021, and I began to connect the dots between how much the CCP actually pays our media organizations or owns shares, right, of the different conglomerations. And if you think about the impact of worldwide media and how it's influenced, Americans have no idea that CCP is influencing.
I have an idea, and Miles reviewed it before, long before, in 2020 or even 2019. I can't remember the dates. It's a business model, okay?
Yes.
So they actually have a budget for what's called BGY plan, which is the second plan Miles reviewed on October 5th, 2017 in the Washington, D.C. National Press Club. You can go YouTube to find that press conference, okay, still online. So BGY, it stands, first of all, I'm going to explain the BGY, and then I'm going to tell you how much they actually allocated to do this. So B stands for the blue. It's a blue, and G stands for gold, Y stands for yellow. So 3 colors, BGY. But B really means is an array of technology and cyber attack and media control. So they tapping, surveillance your phone, they control media, social media. This is all like a B. Okay, in the category of B. And gold is the financial, indirect and direct financial rewards, bribery, to the target, or sometimes the loved one of the target. It doesn't have to be direct, right? It can be indirect, approaching those who are around this person of target, targets of espionage. And then the last one is yellow. Yellow is easy. It's a honey trap. It's a sex. It's a bride through a honey trap. So this is called BGY. That's how they ensure 100% obedience, subservience from whoever they want to control. Okay, so they use a carrot and stick approach. Carrot is I give you what you want, I meet your desire. Okay, but if you don't listen to me, or if you want to do anything that are not in my interest, then I have the BGY collecting the dirt and secret on you, and I will making sure you will yield to the blackmailing or extortion that I have, the dirt, the secrets that I have on you. So that's their tactics. So the Chinese government, so Miles reviewed the intel, they've actually donate 5% of the total trade volume. So the Chinese to US to China two-way trade volume adding together times 5%, that's a budget for BGY in that country. So for example, United States, I think it was amounting to $36 billion a year. They spend on United States BGY, the target of espionage, which including your politicians, your journalists, your media personnel, your big tech, your key people positions in organizations, judges, whatever, whoever they can lay their hands on. Okay, they identify those people and they're approaching those people because they collect so much information about those people. Remember the hacker of your federal records that released 22 million of the federal employees' records, including their financial records. They purchased your Grindr app, which is the dating app for gay. They wanted to know who is a closet congressman in that, so they can blackmailing them. And they have HIV records. They're hacking all your credit card system. They know exactly what you're doing. And then through their frontman of Sequoia Investment and Twitter, Twitter actually, the board just left. Li Feifei was a Chinese scientist, and Miles Guo in 2019 has told us Li Feifei is an illegitimate daughter of one of the CCP members, very high-ranking CCP members at the Politburo committee on the CCP. And she was the AI scientist working Stanford, and she was the board member of the Twitter. Okay.
So while we're on this topic of talking about how deeply embedded the CCP is with our media, with social media, with the way that we communicate with the world, and how Americans get the information. And I mean, I know this as a journalist, I have to really, really study other countries' media and what's going on to even find out what's going on, because you can't rely on U.S. media for really much of anything. And when we talk about this, the fact that the CCP is so involved, where do we go from here? We know that this is kind of the 11th hour. And Americans still, most of them don't even quite understand the threat. They have no idea.
Actually, I want to mention a book. It was given to me by a retired Colonel John Mills, and
I love him.
Yeah,
I love him. Yes.
So the book I think he's about to release is called "The Nation Will Follow," and I start reading the book. I haven't finished it yet, but in the beginning, in the opening section, that he mentioned, look at the American Civil War. The war is only fought by 3% of the people. Okay, and then the 3% of people basically woke up their friends and the families and their close relatives. So that's another 10%. So the war is really, the entire Civil War was fought by 13% of Americans. Okay, so we don't need everybody to wake up. We only need a critical mass, and people like you, April, you're actively doing it. People like John Mills or whoever, seeing the threat and feel the danger. And what Miles Guo initially suggested is he actually provided solutions to the 3F's plans, what I just mentioned earlier, which is foment weakness, foment chaos, and foment destruction of the United States. This is called 3F plan from the CCP. But 3F solutions is follow the money. Okay, so it's always about money. Okay, as you said, follow the money, do the investigations, you will find, and follow, which he said PP, which is honey trap. Follow the honey trap, who they encounter with, which recently we blew the whistle. One of our fellow fighters named Prince, he was interviewed by Grant Stinchfield tonight. And on the show, I think it was a couple of days, maybe 3 days ago, I can't remember exactly the day. And that was absolutely intel. So that is, the Fauci. The infamous Fauci had a sexual relationship with the intimate relationship with the general director of Wuhan Virology of Institute, Wang Yanyi. There's 41 years age difference. So go digging them, go investing them in their relationship when they meet. Okay, check their emails, what they're talking about, check their transactions, and you will find out where the COVID-19, or we call CCP virus, came from.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, it
and we
absolutely
believe that
is.
vessel. We hope you, if you're listening, calling your congressman, tuning to that show, follow us on NFSC Speaks, because we're pumping out information all the time, and follow Miles Guo. Okay, that's the main source of
And
intel
he's
that's
on
coming.
Getter.
He's on
Yes.
Getter. Yes. Follow the money, follow the PP, and follow the NFSC. So we have a lot of information pumping out, and write to your congressman and write to them and let them know the weaponization of the your justice system and your other federal government agencies are real, because point them to this case. They need to be informed. They need to know what's going on, and they need to where to start just by looking, investigate those individuals. And maybe a week ago, there's an article was exposed the financial tie between the judge who presides over the Supreme Court of New York. His name is Barry Ostringer. And he's financial tie with the CCP. I check you to read that articles, and you will know, and how it's basically validates what I just shared with you. How CCP compromised your judicial system is through the international law firm, because that judge, prior to him become the judge appointed by Cuomo in New York, he was a partner at the Simpson Thacher law firm, and Simpson Thacher has made multiple billions, numerous hundreds, I wouldn't say hundreds, but they represent lots of Chinese state-owned company and private company, and they've taunting themselves as the most trusted partner by the Chinese companies. And check on them, follow the money, and there's a lot of dirt there. And if you could do that, you actually protecting yourself, protecting your properties, and protecting fellow Americans, we the people, because we're against a dark evil force and heading by the CCP.
That's so true. Ava, I want really quick before we go, I really want to talk about with our audience watching right now, the CCP spy balloons, right, that were making headlines several weeks ago. Miles Guo had multiple great videos, really sharing a lot of information about that. I want everyone to understand, as you said, the CCP is purchasing companies so that they can own the data, own the information, gain access to Americans. We already know that's something that is happening with TikTok. And several governors across the United States have banned TikTok in their states. And I know for Texas, they've banned it for government employees. But it's almost not enough. It needs to be almost, just completely banned in America.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need CCP spying on us in our homes. But you've mentioned before that one little spy balloon is nothing, that the CCP could one day put thousands and thousands of balloons all over our country. And it's really not so much about surveillance as it is sending a message and trying to bring fear. Is that correct?
Yes, I think it's a testing. I think because balloon, a lot of people focusing on the balloon because it's visible, right? It's fly over the continent of America and shoot down many days after. But this intel, Miles Guo, even in 2017, he has mentioned balloon, okay? And in 2019, he mentioned the balloon. And this is long being shared with the public. Okay, it's just that our voice is so small. Nobody heard of us. And Miles Guo has been sharing the military intels in terms of where the CCP putting their military base along the One Belt, One Road. South America, Argentina, Brazil, like Venezuela, you name it. He has been telling people, but the government agencies full of the CCP spy, they did nothing. They didn't protect America. They didn't protect Americans, okay? But the worst thing is, balloon, Miles Guo warned, it's going to be, right now, if you do not take down the CCP, you don't decouple with the CCP, then maybe one day there's going to come at a cluster, at a tens thousands or even 100,000 balloons at a time.
Mhm.
Okay, they may
Mhm.
carry very lethal biochemical weapon and released it in the air. And what you gonna do?
Right.
And they might do that in Taiwan. It varies from any time. Miles Guo, I think a week ago, he mentioned, she is already ready because they're already taking down your banking system. Your banking is crumbling. Okay, right now they
Mhm.
haven't hit the American people yet because Silicon Valley Bank and Silvergate Bank, a lot of institutions, a lot of companies, corporations put their money there. Okay,
Mhm.
but they're starting. This is domino. Okay, so your banking system
Mhm.
is the very first to fight, because it all goes back to what I'm just saying, foment chaos. So
Mhm.
this is a chaotic time, and be ready for that. They started with the economic warfare. This is what we call unrestricted warfare. It doesn't have to be a
Right.
bomb, a nuclear bomb. It's already starting. Okay, and the economic warfare started with your banking system. And very soon, maybe we will feel it. And then the next one is vaccine disaster. Miles Guolong predict the vaccine disaster has not come yet. Okay, just wait until
Mm.
the vaccine, because the vaccine is a toxin. They're
Mhm.
not life-saving treatments for blocking you
Right.
infected with the
Right.
virus.
Right.
They serve a specific purpose.
Mhm.
Okay, so they're gonna breaking your economic system, and there's and the vaccine crisis is coming. We're gonna going through some darkest moment in
Yeah.
humanity, and this time is upon us, and that's why every single one of us here, we understand the gravity. Okay, we're just trying to tell the world, you need to realize the gravity here. We need to fight together. It's not
Mhm.
about we're Chinese, you're American, you're Australian, you're Japanese. It's about we are the little guy, deplorables, the people. If we do not
Yeah.
fight, we will be slaved.
Right.
Just like the 1.4 Chinese people have been slaved, for
Mhm.
so long. This is where we're fighting.
It's really heartbreaking, and I hope that I know that today with the information you've shared, you've woken a lot more people up, and I'm so thankful that you shared this information. And Ava, of course, I want to have you back on the show again soon so that we can talk more about this and certainly finding out what happens with Miles on April 4th with the court date. And any last words that you'd like to share before we end tonight?
Yeah. So I think one thing you guys can help, I think if the audience can help, is really call, make a demands, because we're trying to,
Mhm.
there's no reason why Miles should be detained until the trial, which is not until April 4th. I mean,
Mhm.
he's not a risk, to anybody.
Right. It's
He
not a
could
danger.
be released on bail, but the government, the persecutor, is arguing against it. So we need you, if you supporting us, come supporting us,
Mhm.
talk to your congressman, call them, email them. Or if you don't know about us, go look, go on our website, read
Yes.
about us, get informed, and try to find a way, determine whether you want to be in this fight or not. Because fighting evil, there's no gray area. Either you're in or you
Mhm.
are out. Okay,
So
because if
true.
we don't defeat them, they kill us. So that's what at stake.
Ava, you're a true warrior. You are just so courageous and brave, and I have the utmost respect for you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Again, contact your congressmen or women and let them know Miles Guo needs to be released, and also tell them that you are concerned about the CCP's involvement in our judicial system, in our three-letter agencies, and overall. And we didn't even get into, Ava, I'll bring you on next time to talk about how CCP spies are being used all across the country in churches and everywhere else to provide intel to the CCP. We'll get into that next time when you join us again. Thanks again for being here.
Yes, thank you. And please, prayers do work. So pray for
Yes.
us, pray for the new federal state of China, pray for the Chinese people and my brother and sister, and most importantly, Miles School. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you, April.
Yes, thank you. You guys have a great Friday.
You too
Thanks
as
for
well.
joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.